In today's video, we're going to be breaking down multiple upcoming snowstorm opportunities, a brief wintertime thaw that will see a warm up in the eastern states, followed by another cold and snowy pattern that potentially looks to set up in the long range. Real quickly, let's talk about my consulting company, Prestige Weather. We're closing out an amazing year with so many happy customers. If you're looking for more than the generic hourly or daily forecasts that can be so frustrating and very broad, look no further than Prestige Weather. We help out individuals and businesses alike. If you're an individual looking for better, more accurate, and direct weather information, be sure to subscribe to our standard package. That's only $4.99 a month. You get early access to direct weather, seasonal, and monthly forecasts, also weekly one-on-one calls with us talking about the weather, and regional forecasts cater to your area. If you're a business, organization, or event manager, be sure to email us at prestigeweather@gmail.com or use the sign-up sheet on our website business section. We would love to work with you. We've been helping out so many businesses, organizations, and events just like yours plan for the weather ahead. We offer consulting calls, texts, and emails catered to your exact location of need. We will be on standby during your job or event and give you updates from start to finish. We also offer long range, medium range, and short range forecasts. We can help with rainfall and snowfall forecasts, plus the timing of onset and ending, which is so important. We pride ourselves on being highly flexible, and we're always willing to deliver on your specific needs. Put a meteorologist in your pocket so you no longer have to guess what the weather will do. Let's go ahead and dive into things. We're taking a look here at the current situation as of this morning into the afternoon, probably a little bit before you're watching this video, but we do still have moderate to heavy snowfall set up over some of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast here, exceeding expectations slightly, actually, with seeing a lot of areas see 4 to 6 inches as opposed to that 2 to 4 that was mostly expected to be pretty widespread. We've seen a lot of people actually see quite a bit more. Now, as we move towards this evening, we will see that that storm moves far up into the northeast, lowering in pressure down to a 994, still seeing moderate to heavy snowfall for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, as they tend to see quite a bit, and that eventually moves out. So by the time we're reaching tomorrow morning on Wednesday the 17th, that'll be all said and done. We do have plenty of very, very cold air over the eastern states as this Arctic air mass moves in after that storm goes ahead and moves out. And we have our next storm kind of lined up here in the northwest, where we're seeing heavier snowfall for the Cascades and the Rockies here for Wednesday, January 17th. As we move into the next day here on Thursday the 18th, we see quite a bit of that snowfall has now transitioned into mostly the Rockies and actually the plains as well. We have another area of kind of broad low pressure set up over the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and down through some of the southern Ohio Valley, I would call it, and maybe even some more storm systems trying to move in through the northwest. But if you're kind of seeing the flow here, it's something like this with all these storms. As we move on towards Friday, what we end up seeing, I'm going to have to move this back a little bit. By the time we're at about very early on Friday, maybe 1 or 2 a.m., we see these two areas of low pressure kind of coming together. We see some lighter snowfall in the Midwest, heavier in the southern Ohio Valley, and all of this is going to kind of come together for the day on Friday. This is as we're reaching kind of the earlier to mid-morning, probably about 9 a.m. Eastern here. We have a low pressure system pretty offshore of the East Coast, set up with some light to moderate snowfall throughout some of the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic here. Looks very, very similar to that snowstorm that just happened. We're seeing areas like West Virginia, Maryland, D.C. in the bullseye for this one for Friday morning into Friday afternoon, where we see it extend into the Delmarva here and even into southern New Jersey. And then eventually that, of course, moves out, and we're left with, again, very, very cold air on the day for Saturday, January 20th. Now, this can all move south or east or north or west. We definitely could see some shifts here, but it does seem apparent that we're going to have another light to moderate snowfall event here in the east, as well as cold air following it. Now, we have a lot of storminess set up over the western states here. As you can see, snowfall up in Canada, down through the Rockies, also the Cascades here. We're eventually going to see the pattern overall warm up here in the east. Look at the northern jet all the way up there in Canada. We're seeing something like this with the northern jet. So a lot of warmer, more humid air is able to work its way into the eastern and central states. Very similar to what we saw for a lot of December. So we're moving back into that milder pattern for a time. The most encouraging thing I can tell you, cold and snow lovers, is that we actually do expect this to be relatively short-lived. And I mean that when I say it. This was never expected to be something that we don't see the end of in sight. We always kind of knew it would be likely between about the 21st and about a week out from there. So let's call it the 21st to the 28th. This particular model does not get to that range. So we're going to have to actually see it on a different model in a minute. It's also important to note that some areas will still be cold enough to support snowfall. For instance, we see this minor to moderate snow event here showing up for around the 23rd into the 24th for areas like Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut. It's just pretty exclusive to these further north areas, because if you're seeing 5 degrees or more above average temperatures, you certainly need areas with very low average temperatures to support snowfall in those types of environments. And even by the time we're reaching the 25th here on Thursday, we see a major trough out west and then this huge ridge in the east. So a lot of this cold is pouring into the west. A lot of this stormy, humid, warm temperatures moving into the east. I said this in a video or two ago, but it's interesting. Everybody always complains, why does it always get stormy when it's warm, and then when it's cold it gets less stormy? Well, you know, oftentimes when we see this warmer pattern, the Gulf air is moving directly northward, and the Gulf has very stormy, very humid conditions. As that all moves up with the moisture, we see storminess really prevail, but it's also warm. And then when that cold Canadian air moves down, it's oftentimes drier. And we see drier conditions move in. What you really need to see a snowy pattern in the east is a ridge out west with this northern jet that dives down into the east just like this. And this is what we've been seeing a lot of. And then you need this southern moisture to really get attached to that southern or that northern jet that's dipping down, something like this. So we get the moisture and the cold air, and then these storms ride along that northern jet. That is the setup that you need for the moisture and the cold to come together. It's not something that just naturally happens. It really needs both of those factors to come together in a very certain way. We stay in this warm pattern all the way through the 26th, which is the end of this model run. But I'll tell you what, we do see a positive PNA developing. This trough is navigating its way further eastward, and this ridge is shrinking. So we still have a flow like this, but this cold air is certainly trying to push eastward, and we have warm air building and pushing eastward for the west. So all of this points towards this trough kind of moving eastward after this point. Again, 27th, 28th time frame, and then we're probably back in business for more cooldowns and more snowfall opportunities. This GFS model is actually going to get us some perfect range to see this, as we get 15 days here on the GFS as opposed to the European, where we can only see out to 10 days. For the 15th or the 19th here on Friday, we see that snowfall in a very similar position to what we saw in that European model. So perfect agreement there. More of a minor to moderate snow event, followed by pretty severe cold air in the east for a couple of days. And then again, the warm up ensues here for the east. We see that kind of northeast exclusive snowfall event. And then we see a lot of moisture along the way. But right around the 26th, 27th time frame, 28th here, we start to see this cold air move back down for the eastern states. And look at this massive ridge out west, trough in the east pattern. It's not digging super far south yet, but certainly is intense. And then we have this positive PNA out west that stands for Pacific North American Oscillation. This is what causes the ridge out west, which in turn causes the cold air to take its way eastward and really take aim at the east. Even on this example, for the 28th into the 29th, we see snowfall dipping as far south as the mid-Atlantic again. So definitely this is when opportunities are going to return to the east. We see a brief warm-up there, but another cool down on the way here at the end of this model run as we approach the beginning of February. Still seeing this kind of positive PNA warm air mass over the west and storms moving along this northern jet. I'd say the only thing that makes this not as encouraging, so just to give a counter argument, is that this northern jet is not dipping super far south. It's actually more elongated than anything. So we're not, maybe not here, getting this connection with that southern jet. It might not be linking up the way we need it to, and that's likely why we're seeing drier conditions here for most of the east. If we get that trough to dip further south, it's going to pick up a lot of that moisture, and we'll see more storms for these areas lined up with the cold, which could mean mid-Atlantic and northeast snowfall once again. There is a lot to be encouraged about in the long range, despite this warm-up that's briefly going to take place for about a week or just under. But definitely there will be that warm up still to deal with. Now, the precipitation through the next 10 days, we do see large amounts of precipitation out west as multiple storms move onshore. So certainly going to be a big snowy 10-day period out there. We see, if we follow the jet stream and it's kind of in expected areas here, we can see that likely it's going to be moving through like this with warmer air up the east coast. Most of the cold air is going to be in between this area here. I'll draw that out. And we see the precipitation follows this jet stream down the west coast and then up the Ohio Valley into the Great Lakes, kind of dodging this east coast area for the next 10 days, that is. Afterwards, things look a lot more promising. Total snowfall here on the European model. The west is going to cash in due to this precipitation. Obviously, those mountaintops will be cold enough, so as long as the precipitation comes, you are in business for snowfall. We can see the Cascades really getting a lot here, Sierra Nevadas as well, and then up and down the Rockies also. The Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, we do expect a general 2 to 6 inches throughout a lot of those blue areas, which is pretty widespread. And then the purple's going to be 6 to 10, pink's 10 to 20. So still quite a bit of snowfall. I would say probably around average snowfall over the next 10 days with a couple of snow events to look forward to. The GFS model, which again gets us all the way to February 1st, we see the same thing out west, plenty of snowfall, no surprise there. But as we take a look at the upper Midwest through the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast, we have quite a bit more snowfall to talk about here. After that, kind of 28th time frame, we see snowfall returning here to the east, and this leads to 10-inch plus amounts throughout some of the Smoky Mountains, Appalachian Mountains, and then widespread throughout the Northeast. So we expect to be back in business very, very soon. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for daily weather videos just like this one. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.